All right. Welcome back to the channel, subscribers. Canelo Alvarez is fighting Sergey Kovalev for the 175-pound title. And the media just can't help themselves. Got to compare what he's doing to Henry Armstrong. Man, you guys got to stop it. You guys got to stop it. Let's talk about that and the Kovalev fight and something that Kovalev said about Andre Ward in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then you can be notified of when we release more videos on topics like this. Thank you to all the new followers I have on Twitter, doing more stuff on Twitter. Thank you to the guys. Thank you so much to the people that continue to support on Patreon. Got one that we're uploading today. I think you're going to enjoy. And thank you to everybody that comes through the live streams, that donate to the live stream with the super chats and the Cash App. And also, I definitely want to say, please attend OG Boxing Talk this weekend. It's going to be a great show. Blood boxing's already bubbling. We know we about to do it real nice this weekend. All right. So, Canelo Alvarez, really do appreciate this guy's a top-notch fighter. Before I say anything about Canelo Alvarez, because I like to focus on the sport of boxing, and I like to be truthful when I evaluate and I talk about somebody and what they can do in a boxing ring. Canelo Alvarez is not an overrated fighter, and in my eyes. Canelo Alvarez can do a lot in that boxing ring. His marketing and his management outside of the boxing ring, man, I'm not a big fan of. Not a big fan of Oscar De La Hoya outside the ring. I couldn't help but appreciate and acknowledge that Oscar De La Hoya was a great fighter in the ring. Outside the ring, though, the way he moves, I would say not so much, but really not at all. Now, this fight between Sergey Kovalev and Sergey Kovalev and Canelo Alvarez. They're having the fight. There was rumors about it happening before. It didn't take place before because of whatever, money, this, that, or the other thing. I think Sergey Kovalev didn't think that he was getting the money that he deserved for the fight. So he fought a very green Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde puts up a good fight against him. Canelo Alvarez then comes in the zone, then come with the money. And now Sergey Kovalev and Canelo Alvarez are going to fight for his whatever belt that he has up there at 175 pounds. I think it is, I should know this, but I think it is the WBO. But somebody can correct me in the comment section if it's not. But I believe that it's the WBO. Regardless, it's one of those 175-pound belts. So there's so many of these belts, and I do believe that there's 4 champions at 175 pounds. So, you know, who knows? Regardless, Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Sergey Kovalev for that belt. Now, in the midst of talking about that, 2 things were said that I thought were just, you know, man, I can be a cynic, okay? And this is cynical. This is Fanon's cynical week. Okay, I'm cynical. They said that this is like, compared this to Henry Armstrong and what Henry Armstrong did in 1938. Okay, now that's almost as ridiculous as this lineal. Oh, it's as ridiculous as this marketing ploy that they pushed for the lineal championship over there on ESPN with Tyson Fury. Let me tell you what Canelo Alvarez is doing, and then let me tell you what Henry Armstrong did. Canelo Alvarez is moving from 160 to 175 to beat one of 4 champions. He won belts at 154. He won a belt. He doesn't hold any belts at 154 anymore. He moved to 160. right? He's been at 160 for several years. He won, I think he's got one belt left. I think he's got the WBA belt left because he got stripped of the IBF. He was never the WBO. That's Demetrius Andrade. He got stripped of the IBF belt because he wouldn't fight Derevyanchenko. He vacated and was elevated from the WBC belt because he wouldn't fight Jermall Charlo. And so he goes up, he jumps past 168, and now who he fought before, he fought for a secondary belt. He fought at 168 for a secondary belt, not the WBA super champion. He did not fight for the belt that I do believe Callum Smith has. He fought for the belt that Rocky Fielding had. So essentially he moved to 168 and he fought the number 2 rated 168 pounder WBA in the WBA. Then he moves up. Now he's moving up to fight Sergey Kovalev. And let's just assume for a minute that he wins the fight, which is not a foregone conclusion because Sergey Kovalev is very big and he can fight. Okay. So, but say he gets to 175 and he wins that, right? He's now champion of 168 at 160. He was a champion at 154. One of the champions at 154. I don't think that's been in several years though. So several years ago, he won 154. He holds one belt, one of the 4 belts at 160. He held a secondary belt at 168. And then he would hold one of 4 belts at 175. Okay. Now, like I said, the guy can fight. All right. You can't do all that if he can't fight. He's a very, very good fighter. Okay. He wouldn't have got past Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez wouldn't have got past Gennady Golovkin if he wasn't a very, very good fighter. Okay. He wouldn't have won belts. He wouldn't have been able to get a decision against Landy Lara and Austin Trout if he wasn't a very good fighter. And he definitely wouldn't be able to move up to 175 and beat Sergey Kovalev if he does it, if he wasn't a very good fighter. But let's compare that to what Henry Armstrong did in 1938. He won belts at featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. He held all 3 of those at the same time. He was unified champion at featherweight. He was the undisputed champion at featherweight, undisputed champion at welterweight, undisputed champion at lightweight. All at the same time. At the time that he did this, there was, I do believe, only 8 belts, 8 weight classes, and 8 champions in all of boxing. So, out of the 8 championships that there were in 1938, he held 3 of them. And he fought for the 4th, which was at middleweight against Seferino Garcia, who he had already beaten, I do believe, at welterweight. And they called it a draw. Now, it's a really interesting story about how they called that fight a draw. I think the ref walked out and he said that they had deducted 5 points from Henry Armstrong for holding. And as a result, I think it went to a draw. A referee called it a draw. And people that saw the fight were like, no, Henry Armstrong beat the tar out this dude, or beat him convincingly. Take my words out of that. But regardless, held all 3 at undisputed, because there was no WBA, WBC. There was, I guess, the WBA under the name NBA or whatever was prior, right? Immediately prior to that, but held all of those at the same time. Let me tell you what Canelo Alvarez would have to do today to equal what Henry Armstrong did in 1938. He's the 160-pound champion. He would have to hold at 160. He'd have to be undisputed at 160, which means he'd have to hold the 3 belts. He would have had to fight Demetrius Andrade. That's what he had to do. He would have had to fight Demetrius Andrade. Before he got stripped, he would have had to fight Demetrius Andrade. Then he would have to go to 175, not 168, 175. Because remember, when Henry Armstrong was fighting, there was only 8 weight classes. So he had to go from lightweight to welterweight because there was no 140. He had to go from featherweight to lightweight because there was no super featherweight. And he had to go to welterweight, from welterweight to middleweight, because there was no super welterweight or junior middleweight, whatever you want to call it. So Canelo would have to jump those weight classes. He'd have to go from he'd either have to go back down to 147 and unify, then unify at 160, then unify, then become undisputed at 175. Or if he had to all do it in 1 year. So he would have to fight Demetrius Andrade this year. Then he would have to have gotten somehow, now there's some opportunity that would have had to happen because we got all these belts, right? But just theoretically, if it could have happened, he would have had to beat the undisputed champion at middleweight. And then he would have to move up again to fight, from middleweight to light heavyweight. Then he would have to go fight the undisputed champion at heavyweight because there's no cruiserweight. Okay? So that would be like him having to be the 160-pound champion, then go beat all the 175-pound champions, then go beat a unified Deontay Wilder or undisputed Deontay Wilder, an undisputed Anthony Joshua. It's just not the same at all, okay? They just went way overboard with it. Cut it out. It's not even close. Stop over marketing. Anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out.